I think you described in your book some findings of like really like, let's call it like this, giants, people who were giants. It's very much talked about today that usually like people in the past were higher, taller, more I don't know, more intelligent. They lived longer. What do you say about that?
Yes, well, that's even modern scientists recognize that before 5 or 10,000 years ago in Europe and the Americas and Asia, living things of all kinds were bigger than
Mm.
they are today. You know, the bears were bigger, the elephants were bigger, the plants were bigger. In California, where I live, there are the California redwood trees in the mountains of California. They're over 5,000 years old. They're the biggest living things on Earth. You know, they're maybe 100 meters tall, and you know they're huge. So it's part of standard science that living things were bigger in the past. So I think human beings could also have been bigger as well. And there are lots of reports of such things, but not in the scientific literature. I mean, many of the cases that I talk about in forbidden archaeology are published in the scientific literature of the time. They're just no longer mentioned in the textbooks. So some of these giant discoveries have never made it into any kind of scientific publication. But there's a lot of reports of such things. One difficulty I've had is that I know there's many reports. You see lots of things on the web, different pictures. But if you actually try to track down some of the specimens, you don't really find very many. The most credible report of giants, fossils of giants I've seen is the discovery that was made in France
Mm-hmm.
in the early 20th century. And there, a French anthropologist was investigating a site in southern France, and he found huge human-like bones. And he found a femur or a thigh bone that was a certain size. Now, anthropologists, if they carefully measure the size of a thigh bone, they can estimate how tall
Mm-hmm.
the person was that had a thigh bone of that length. They estimated the creature that had this would have been uh, about 3 meters tall. So, and there were photographs of it published in a scientific journal. So that is the best evidence that I've seen so far. Uh, Otherwise, it's very difficult to track down the remains of these large-sized humans. Although I definitely think they existed,
Yeah, me
but
too. They are not I think there will be a time where this topic is going to be discussed more and more. And what happened with this femur bone in France? Where did it go? And what do they say? I think they say something like it's a bone from some animal, some gigantic animal.
sometimes they say that. There
Yeah.
are scholars who have pointed out that sometimes even the ancient Greeks and Romans, they would find fossils of mammoth, elephants, giant ancient elephants, and they would say they couldn't understand what they really were, so they thought, this is what the scholars say. They say they interpreted them as the remains of giants, human giants.